He won't try to replace Dad, right?
For us.
Because no one's going to replace your dad.
Right.
No one. I worry that my dad and the chance of having like a really close relationship with my dad, like slowly going away.
I think he'd be a great stepdad.
I agree. Worried that my relationship with my father will be desolate, will like not exist anymore.
Hi, besties. It's Aria from TLC The Sister Chapter L. Welcome back to my channel. It's another day, and it's another Sister Wives update. This time, it involves Christine Brown's second youngest daughter, Ysabel. She apparently is being sued in the state of Utah in Salt Lake City due to a car accident that likely occurred in 2023. According to an infraction ticket that she had received in March of 2023, the accident occurred in near Midville City in Utah on I-15 during what appears to be a high traffic time, and it involved, according to the complaint, 4 separate cars. So, we go all the way back to March 30th of 2023. And according to a traffic court case filed in Midvale City in Salt Lake City, Utah, Ysabel was cited and ticketed for following another vehicle safe distance infraction. This is a citation that can be given after there's an accident where you are following too closely and you end up rear-ending an individual, which can then be cause injuries or just damage. Now, the individual suing her is a woman who claims that she was in a car traveling in Utah. And this is what she says. Upon information and belief, at the time of the incident, defendant held a valid driver's license. Upon information and belief, prior to the incident, defendant had completed a driver's education class. Upon information and belief at the time of the incident, defendant was aware of all safety laws and regulations pertaining to driving a motor vehicle. The motor vehicle incident underlying this action occurred on Interstate 15, just south of Winchester Road. Winchester's road is, or street is, in Midville. It's kind of in the Murray area of Utah. This wouldn't be super far from where Christine and David were living at the time. I believe Christine and David bought a new place in Lehi around this March-April time frame. So this is around the time of that incident, of the same incident. At the time of the incident, plaintiff was lawfully operating a gray Subaru Outback in the far left lane of travel. Directly behind plaintiff's vehicle was a vehicle operated by Matias Ganado. Positioned directly behind Mr. Ganado's vehicle was Jadat Murray, and then the defendant was operating a Honda HR-V directly behind Mr. Mariah's vehicle. Defendant was traveling directly behind Mr. Mariah in the Honda HR-V. Due to slowing traffic ahead, plaintiff applied her brakes, signaling to drivers behind her that she was decelerating. Plaintiff brought her vehicle to a complete stop due to the traffic conditions. Both Mr. Ganado and Mr. Mariah also slowed and brought their respective vehicles to a complete stop in a safe and controlled manner. Defendant, however, negligently failed to reduce speed or maintain control of their vehicle and violently collided with the rear of Mr. Mariah's vehicle. The force of the impact caused a chain reaction collision. Mr. Mariah's vehicle was propelled into Mr. Ganado's vehicle, which then struck plaintiff's vehicle, causing her bodily injury. The collision was caused by defendant's negligence, including but not limited to failure to slow, failure to maintain a proper lookout, and failure to follow safety rules and regulations under the conditions, and failure to maintain control of their vehicle in a safe and proper manner. As a result of the collision, plaintiffs suffered bodily injuries, some of which may be permanent. In the state of Utah, if somebody's in a car accident, they have a no-fault system for car accidents. However, they have this modified law where if someone is comparatively less liable, less at fault for an accident, they can sue the driver that's more responsible for negligence. And as long as the individual is less than 51% responsible, they can recover damages for any injuries and medical expenses and any, pain and suffering for lasting injuries that they've incurred and damage to their cars. Now, in the state of Utah, because of the no-fault system, they're supposed to go through their car insurance. So they're owning car insurance, and then they're also supposed to seek damages from the person that's at fault comparatively. So, in this case, she would have had to go to Ysabel's car insurance company and sue them and get money from them. And then once you get word from your car insurance company or that person's car insurance company that they're not going to pay, or say the person is underinsured, whatever it may be, then you can file a lawsuit. But you have to exhaust all of those channels before you can file a suit, which could explain why this lawsuit is filed a couple years after the incident. So, the plaintiff alleges and incorporates by reference that the preceding paragraph's defendant acted negligently toward plaintiff by, among other things, failure to slow, failure to maintain a proper lookout, failure to follow safety rules and regulations under the conditions, and failure to maintain control of their vehicle in a safe and proper manner. Defendant's negligence was the approximate and actual cause of this collision and the plaintiff's injuries. And as a proximate result of defendant's negligence, plaintiffs suffered physical injuries. Plaintiffs will continue to suffer from injuries in the future. As a further approximate result of defendant's negligence, plaintiff has incurred medical bills in amount in excess of $3,000, and plaintiff will provide proof of the same trial in this manner. As further approximate result of defendant's negligence, plaintiff suffered pain and suffering of both mind and body. Plaintiff suffered a loss of enjoyment of life. Plaintiff has been unable to go about his business, hobbies, and household chores, and plaintiff suffered permanent injuries and impairment as a result of the negligence. Wherefore plaintiff prays for judgment against defendants as follow for past, present, and future special damages, including medical expenses, consequential damages lost, and future care if applicable, and other out-of-pocket expenses in amount to be proven at trial for past, present, and future general damages, including physical pain and suffering, emotional pain and suffering, loss of enjoyment of life, and permanent impairment and/or disability, if applicable, in an amount to be established at trial. And for prejudgment and post-judgment interest, such costs of court, such other relief as the court deems just and equitable, and they demand a trial by jury and tenders the required statutory fee breath within. So, this was filed on June 23 in Salt Lake City County in Utah. And in the state of Utah, in order to file for negligence, you have to have had at least $3,000 in hospital bills, and then you need to meet the certain criteria to prove negligent damages and physical injury. No details of the actual car accident. They have to do. I did a search of the time frame of when this could have occurred. This area on the I-15 in Salt Lake has a ton of accidents. I don't know why specifically this area has a ton of accidents, but there are a lot of deadly accidents that actually occur in this area on the I-15. It could be because it's a heavily congested area. It could be due to wintry conditions. I don't know, but there's a lot of accidents. And in this case, it sounds like at least nobody was killed. It doesn't sound like Ysabel was injured. It sounds like this woman was injured. And unfortunately, with cases during rush hour and when you're following too closely, these kinds of accidents happen all the time on the freeway. And I think a lot of us have been in a situation like that where you just don't react quickly enough and slow down, or you might be distracted, or you just might not be able to, you're not paying attention directly, and suddenly it's like, boom, you've hit them. And it sounds like in this case, whatever happened, the slowdown happened, and she had to come to a complete stop, and then the two behind her came to a complete stop, and then Ysabel smashed into that car, and then the car is just sort of like a chain reaction. Those kinds of accidents are so scary. There was actually an accident like that on the same stretch of the highway a couple months ago. And in that case, a car ended up getting trapped under a semi in the exact same area. There's been similar crashes just like that, where the cars do the exact same thing, and then the car ends up in the middle of the freeway. In April, there was a 7-car pileup in the same area. So, this stretch of I-15 has a lot of accidents. And it honestly, car accidents happen to all of us. Sometimes we are at fault, sometimes we are not. This makes my heart hurt for Ysabel, because if you think about everything that was going on during the time that this likely happened, she was dealing with her mom buying a new house with a new boyfriend. She's going to college. She's dealing with a lot of changes in her life. Lots on her mind during that time, and I don't necessarily see her as someone that is irresponsible. In fact, she stayed at the scene clearly because she received a ticket. The only thing I think is kind of strange now is that it took 2 years for this lawsuit to be filed against her. If you remember, something similar happened with Peyton actually. In Nevada back in 2018. He was not on the freeway, but he was again on a busy stretch of the road, and he also rear-ended someone similar fashion. In that case, Kody got sued along with Peyton because I think it was Kody's car that was part of the accident. And I also think with Peyton's situation, there was an issue with underinsured. Like, I don't think they were insured or he wasn't properly insured. And with the issue with Peyton and Kody, they ended up going into arbitration. And then through the arbitration, they two women were suing, and they shared what their medical fees were. And the arbitrator looked at everything. And then Kody and Peyton a judgment was filed against them. And I think it was like over $30,000. In this case, there's no mention about insurance, and the complaint is very vague. I think when you file a lawsuit, it's important to be as specific as possible, like listing the date and a copy of the accident report and all of that. Now, they said they have evidence for the fees and the medical expenses and the hospital bills. But yeah, it's truly unfortunate. Going through lawsuits is not fun, and she is so young. But I hope it's not a situation like with Peyton where she didn't have the right insurance or she was underinsured so that she couldn't pay her. That's the only thing that I can think of because sometimes if you have a car and you just get like liability insurance, but you don't have, collision on it, it sometimes won't cover when your car goes through a crash. It might cover your injuries, but it might not cover anyone else's injuries. And you might have to get rid of your car if you total it because you don't have coverage to repair your car. That's the only thing I could think of because I think back when I was that age and I used to not carry collision on my cars. I know it's like the dumbest thing ever, but we'd bought older cars and my parents didn't think it was worth it to pay extra for collision on cars that if you got into a car accident would ultimately not be replaced anyway. Silly thinking. So important is, if you're in a car accident, make sure that you have proper insurance. I'm not saying she doesn't, but just that's a reminder. Make sure to not follow too closely and pay attention to what's happening on the road, and hopefully in this case, she doesn't have to go to trial. I hope that the damages aren't too much, but these kinds of accidents happen to the best of us, and whatever. If this, and I hope for the sake of the woman involved that if the injuries were significant and serious, she gets the justice that she receives. I truly hope that if she was significantly injured, as she describes, that she's able to get the money and recoup the money that she needs in order to pay for the hospital bills, as well as recoup for the lost wages and work that she and damages and loss of enjoyment in her life due to the impairments she's still dealing with as a result of the car accident. So, what are your thoughts about all of this? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed, and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, guys.